All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am Paddo. With me on the mic today is going to be a special co-caster guest, Ifightbears. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think we had a lot of fun last night with our new ranked team and in our game. So I'm actually excited to now move on over to casting, and we have a pretty good matchup for you. This is the second round of the playoffs. It's gonna be a best of three. We're gonna be playing Amazon, who's gonna be our blue team, versus Qualcomm, who's gonna be our purple team. Both these teams have played before. I believe Qualcomm did come on top later on the early rounds, and Amazon took one earlier in the season. So should be a pretty good game set up here. And as we look over the bans, what do you think about these bans, Ifightbears?
It's some of them are a little weird, just like being Irelia and Evelyn. But the thing is I don't know how well these teams know each other and how well each team knows what they play. So I can't really knock them. A lot of the picks there, like for the bans, are all pretty solid. Evelyn's a really strong AP mid hero. Xin Zhao, he'll stick to you like glue. You're not going to get away. Irelia just becomes a mid-game monster. And it's the same thing with Pony. I think he's one of the most OP characters in the game, where Thresh is one of the top tier supports right now between pretty much Thresh and Lulu to hold top tier, and Amumu is just an all-around annoying person.
Yeah, I completely agreed. Interesting enough, I was talking a little bit before this match started, but Gurg, or the Gurg, as I like to call him, actually loves Irelia, and talking a little bit with Always Giving Off before this game, they said we might have to ban Irelia out just because we think that their top laner is really strong, either gonna possibly be, either they're going to know how to play against her, and we want to try to put them on something else that's going to be a little bit better for them. So a little bit scared that they probably wouldn't get her anyways. Pretty much it's been a staple ban for most teams against them. So interesting that they actually ban her out here, and we'll see what the Gurg goes through. But as we look across these teams right now, we can see the MF Targ bully lane. Lux, who Amazon's been loving to play, their big brother team, the AHGL A team, actually used that to help stall out a lot of the strategies that I believe Epic, who they're playing against in the A League, wanted to use to basically do lots of pushes, and so they used Lux to stall that out and use that long-range poke very, very effectively. And so they've kind of picked up that strategy as well. And if they back it up here with the Rumble, which looks like they're going to lock in, they're going to have a lot of long-range engage potential or just harass and clearing.
Yeah, they have a pretty good all-around solid team. Lux is probably taking Morgana's place as the #1 safe support to play. I mean, even if you don't land snares, it's not a huge deal. You could always sit back and, farm with your E if you really need to. But even then, you can be super aggressive too. And Orianna is one of those characters that kind of have to have a little bit of ramp-up time in the beginning to really put out damage. She really does need levels to do it. One thing that is really peculiar to me is they banned out Irelia, but they decided to put a Rumble top. I just kind of don't agree with it in the sense that Rumble should, in matchup-wise, he really does do really well against Irelia because he can be super aggressive with Flame Spitter and really kind of slow her down and punish her if she comes back in with Harpoons and Flame Spitter to like dive into him. So I kind of disagree with it. It's not a terrible thing, but like Elise is a really strong pick, and it probably would have been a better ban to just ban Elise instead of Irelia if they plan to go with the Rumble from the start.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. As a Rumble player myself, I know it really is a matchup that you can win. I think it would have been good bait. Where Elise is definitely a matchup that's it's a pain. Like, you can get through it, but it's a struggle, and she's a pain to deal with. And looking across at Qualcomm's team, just running through their lineup, Leona Ezreal, going to have some hard engage, some poke in there. And Ezreal actually a champion that Amazon's had a little bit trouble with before just because he's able to keep up lane pressure in the late game, actually using True Shot Barrage to clear waves. And, wave management in the later stages of the game, something Amazon struggle with. I know they've definitely been practicing that a little bit, keeping their lanes, at an equal level and keeping them shoved if they can. But in some cases, that's kind of been the poison for them when it gets into the mid-late game.
Honestly, I really do like their team. There's a lot of synergy there between Jarvan and Orianna. Same thing with Leona. She can go into with the ball, and then the ult will get off. You can have a double Jarvan ult. It really fits in well because she does have a little bit of AoE, but she also has that single target damage that really is necessary between her and Jarvan. Even though he kind of is bursty and he does have AoE spells, a lot of the focus is going to be on one character. As for like the Amazon team, it's it's a little weird to me. Just, I mean, they have a lot of damage, like outright bursty damage, with like Cho'Gath ult, targets, Tarek's Shatter is gonna make MF do a lot of damage, and Lux just does a whole bunch of burst damage as it is. But there isn't a huge amount of synergy. I mean, Rumble ult plus the Lux is gonna be good, and the same thing with the Cho'Gath, but since the Shogoth's in the jungle, he's not really going to get really AP heavy, so he's just going to be mostly utility.
Yeah, he's going to be that big, beefy tank, hopefully, if they can get him to that stage and then swing into the mid game, hopefully just be a little bit of a boss. But I know it's just something that always gives me off his love to play. It's kind of been his go-to jungler, so hopefully we'll see him actually do well in this game, actually going up against a J4, which should be actually pretty interesting there as well. But overall, yeah, I like both these teams. One interesting thing we do see from the Gurg coming in here is he actually does have teleport, so that Rumble's not going to be completely locked up in that top lane. He's going to be able to possibly get out, support team fights, come in for dragons if they want to set up on an objective, and bring that hurt. And it'll be really interesting to see how well this team does, because I think this is definitely a team where there is some engaged potential, off there, but there's a lot of just kind of, they're not going to want to fully get caught by this team as we look at Qualcomm's team, because Qualcomm's team is one of those teams that they can just get a hold of you, and if they get a hold of you, they're just going to bring the hurt on you really, really quickly.
Yeah, I do feel like that top lane is going to be the focal point in this match, and whoever does well, I feel like just because of the way the champions both are, whoever snowballs harder is going to end up probably winning their team the game. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I just think that's a very high possibility.
Yeah, I think if Amazon and Qualcomm, they wanted to be on that top lane, that's definitely where they would want it to be, just because those two are two of their better players. And although the matchup is going to be in the favor of Qualcomm, we'll see how the Gurg deals with it. Maybe we'll see some early ganks called up there. Red side, very common for them to possibly have an early gank up top, but also this mid lane. This mid lane is actually fairly gankable, at least in the early stages, depending on if Orianna pushes out a little bit too far. So we'll see. Should be a good one.
And another thing to really note is the blue team has a wonderful invade team. They have a whole bunch of CC to go in, and where it's pretty much just Leona, and if Elise gets her cocoon, that's about it. So hopefully we'll see some early game aggression and get some action straight from the start.
Yep. And so it looks like we're just going to be able to load in here. Gonna get ready. Again, this is going to be Amazon versus Qualcomm. This is a best of 3, so either one of these teams can drop a game and still have a chance to go for it. Last time I got to cast Amazon, they dropped their first game, swung back, and won their second game in under 20 minutes. So anything is possible for these teams. And well, I'm actually really excited to see how this one goes down as we look in here. Just at the the funny borders, a lot of these members actually are at different ranks now currently, but you can see as last season they actually do have quite a few golds on a Qualcomm, which always isn't the key to victory, just having the higher ranked players, although it does mean mechanically they might have a little bit of an upper hand. And again, like I said, a lot of these players have probably played a lot more than last season, and, in Season 3. Season 3 has been out for quite a while now, so some of these players probably in a little bit higher ranks than they are currently. I think the Gurg actually is a gold ranked player, I believe, so we're going to kick it off.
All right, I'm stoked to see what's going on. And like you said, a lot of these borders don't mean much. Some people could have either not taken the season seriously and just played with friends, and then all of a sudden got caught up to the competitive scene that's growing wildly as it is. I mean, and it's just another thing where maybe the meta just wasn't good for them, or they didn't follow the meta well enough to really abuse what was going on. So
yeah, we're seeing early run out right here from both teams, actually heading towards Paddo. It looks like a little bit of coverage for the red buff, at least for Qualcomm, where Amazon looking like they're mounting up for an invade down here. Leona placing that ward down at blue buff, as we see Tarek mimicking the same thing for Amazon. So both teams have actually, this is something I've kind of watched over the season. It's pretty fun to watch these teams mature, because as I've cast them, they've kind of learned. Like before, they would never ward their other buff, and as I started casting them, you can see that they've slowly, perfected their style. There's a lot more warding early on, and they're either following the current scene, they're watching LCS, they're listening to the cast, they're practicing a lot as a team, and so that's actually exciting to see these teams kind of grow as we move along, and now finally in the playoffs here.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see people grow as players in general. I really like the word placement for the Amazon's team, covering the race, since that's generally the most kind of common path if they were to go in, and plus they're at the bottom, so they're already covered, where Qualcomm kind of is already in a brush where they would see the area that would come in. I think they could have placed it at the race too if they wanted to be a little bit more efficient with their wording.
And it looks like we're going to see a response from Qualcomm. We're going to have a level 1 fight on our hands here. No one quite blue-pilled yet. Everybody's stacked up, and it looks like they're just waiting for time to go and waiting for the blue buff to start and possibly have someone back. It looks like the Gurg is going to back off out of this. And
oh, this could be really bad.
The flag lands. Gurg is out just in time, and they're going to be able to get out before anybody dies. Very, very close. That Zenith Blade almost was about to snatch a life.
I was surprised the standard didn't stop him. It must have been just out of range. That was crazy.
So, good news for Jarvan, he's going to be able to keep his buff, and bad news for always goofing off, it's going to take him quite a while to get over here, and he's probably going to need some help on this blue buff, otherwise he's going to take a lot of damage, going to set his jungle pretty far behind.
It doesn't look like anyone's coming to really assist him, so it looks like he's going to just have to kind of hoof it and see what he can do. Yeah, it's a good thing that Cho'Gath's passive is what it is. It'll make up for a lot of the kind of bad start as long as he's able to continue through his jungle. But, ooh, okay.
Close.
I was a little scared there. I thought he might die.
Yeah, so luckily he is able to go through it. Leona with an early engage down here onto Pelennor. And just going to back him off, proc those passives. Actually, really nice from Bobo. He actually auto-attacked and proc passive on both champions right there, on Volsei and Pelennor, so... Definitely.
That takes a lot of presence, like in mind, to really realize that you can debuff people also.
Yeah, and there's another engagement. Those are just landing, and there's the all-in. Barrier having to be popped in response to that ignite, and they're already backing Pelennor off. And this early lane is supposed to be a bully lane, but as long as those Zenith Blades are landing, it's going to be trouble. And it looks like the Gurg, trying to keep his distance, actually lands a nice double harpoon right there. But the lane gank incoming from J4, and this could be very, very life-ending for Gurg if he actually doesn't get caught out here.
And there it goes. And this was... Whoa.
Ooh,
yeah, this is going to be first blood.
There's the repel just for good measure. Actually shields it, stays alive for quite a while, but unfortunately just not enough to pull it out. So early nice little first blood from Qualcomm coming in there. And definitely off to a good start for them. In all lanes, it looks like pretty much, except for maybe mid lane. Mid lane hanging tough. Now, I did talk about the Gurg kind of being the star player, but last time I actually got to cast Patton D's on this Lux actually was MVP in the third game. And he's one of those hot and cold kind of players. He's one of those players that, he can have a really huge game and carry it for Amazon, or, he can just kind of be relegated to just an average kind of performance and not really pull anything off for his team. So we'll see which one comes out, but it looks like in the early stages, Patton's going to have to pull off an MVP kind of game, just in the early stages of how this game is working out.
Well, his lane stage is going pretty well. He is bullying her when she comes into CS, which is really good, because she doesn't have a lot of damaging response in the earlier levels, but it looks like she's starting to get that point where her attack move is actually going to start doing damage. So, as well as dissonance.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of zone out action down here. Brush control definitely in favor. The early wards spent up in the upper tier brush, but since so much pressure was put on early, they've now been backed out farther here. And Tarek does have some wards here, but this could be trouble again as they just get a lot of pressure. And funny enough too, Elise's little spiderlings can actually tank like some skill shots, which is pretty ridiculous to me as well.
Yeah.
And frustrating.
Yeah, I've had it happen to me before. Actually, one of the last night when we were playing and I was slain, I accidentally eat one of the little spiderlings instead of her itself.
So Bobo looks like there's a little bit of a gank action down here in bottom lane. Bobo able to arcane shift right as that dazzle comes in. That's just kind of Ezreal's secret sauce to deal with Tarek. It's a slow moving projectile. You can see it coming. You get that little bit of extra distance, and Cho'Gath's just not quite quick enough to close the gap. And I don't think there was a tri-brush ward there at the time, and if he would have went up and around, might have been a little bit better chance for him. But they were pushed up, hard to get in there, and tried to make a plays. I respect that.
And not only that, but it did really relieve pressure off their AD carry, who was kind of forced into tower, wasn't able to really CS, and now she's all up there, just kind of taking everything she can. I really do like what Tarek's doing, because they are playing from behind. He's sitting out in front because Leona doesn't want to blow a Zenith blade on Tarek. She wants the AD carry. And he's also, whenever they do go ahead and throw those Zenith blades on here, he's stunning Ezreal. So the main damage dealer is being disabled during that time.
Yeah, and that's solid support mechanics right there, and definitely what Tarek is good at. Now, Tarek, one of those supports I know you're not a big fan of, but definitely after kind of the recent changes, and they've just slowly been scaling back to the point now where, there was a point where I did kind of like him, especially for solo queue, and a lot of matchups where if you were against an inexperienced bot lane, you could bully him around pretty well. But now, he still has the same kind of tools, but it's just not quite as overpowered, easy mode, potent that you can just go in there and do work. And Paddo and D's finally starting to run out of gas here a little bit, but he does have that double fairy charm start that I do like a lot actually onto Lux. Usually, if you're pretty careful with your mana and you pay attention to it, you can actually manage it pretty well and should have a decent amount of mana. And we see Cho'Gath actually invading a little bit up here as we see Orianna's like, no, but she's running out of mana here herself and not having quite as easy of a time going after him. But
yeah, that's very true.
But do send him away, and it looks like always Giffingoff going to have to run further into his own jungle, trying to look for somewhere to farm up here. As we look across at him, he is level 5, while J4 is level 5 as well, so not too far behind. After that start, actually ahead in creeps. So actually good on him being able to catch up a little bit here. J4, though, again, going in there and getting that assist, though, in top lane, so definitely a good advantage for him.
Yeah, I do like the J4 jungle. It's really strong right now, especially with the buffs to pretty much all of the tanky meta kind of thing that's happened. Where the thing is with Jarvan is he doesn't really need damage to do damage, not item wise at least, and
yeah.
his skills are all super bursty, so he's just got a lot of utility in him for not having to really pour money into damage items.
And Point Blank actually going to try to turn on this one, get the kill, repels into the backlines. Gurg going to try to run this one down, but a nice little stun right there is going to hold him in place. Will he be able to run this one down? Burst damage coming out. Orianna looks like it might come up, but it looks like the Paddo and Ifightbears is going to come up here, throws the laser across the team, and is finally going to be able to pick up that kill, giving up the jungler for taking up the top lane. Pretty decent there. But, as you see there, how potent Elise is able to just turn on there and then have almost enough escape to get out of trouble.
Yeah, in Lux, that's another good thing about Lux. It's the same thing with a lot of APs like TF, where they don't actually have to leave their lane fully to assist with them. Same thing with Karthus with their ultimates, where they can give vision or they can just go
there's the ult in bot lane. True Shot barrage across the team. Barrier used up here, and Leona going to be able to help close out that one. Ezreal pretty low here, but not much the Tark is going to be able to do to this. Flashes away as we see the Arcane Shift attack just coming in there a little bit to poke him on his way out, but nice little engagement there. I think they got a little bit complacent. The Zenith Blade did miss from Leona, and that was just kind of the cue, and Leona just waited in there, and they're just like, not really scared of her, but surprised she has a lot more CC in the tank, and just kind of caught him off guard.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of surprising to me that Leona isn't more of like a higher tier pick for supports, just because she does have a lot of just the ability to tank with the move. I don't even know what it's called. I feel dumb. The one that puts a shield around her and explodes.
I believe isn't it like Equinox or something?
Something
Eclipse,
like
there
that.
There we go. Eclipse. There we go. It's one of those.
Yeah. It just kind of gives her the ability to tank through a lot of things that a lot of other supports can't do at the early level. So she's able to make those kind of heavier dives with her Zenith Blade.
Yeah, and I've actually seen really amazing turnarounds too, where she's at like 100 health, and then she pops that, turns around, puts up enough CC that they turn around with enough backup that they actually just turn double kills, and it's happened quite a bit. I believe the Google team actually had one of their big week highlights when they actually did just that. Had a Leona turn around, got a double kill in their lane when Leona and the AD carry were almost 100 health. And Gurg doing a good job dodging some of the harass in here. He's sustaining okay against this Elise. Hasn't fully been punished, was able to pick up a kill, so not too bad off actually in this top lane so far.
Yeah, and he's gotten past the point where Rumble is actually relatively weak in lane in most matchups. And I think at this point, if she kind of goes into spider form, he does have a good chance to really punish her for coming in on him when she does the chase away. So I guess we'll kind of see how this plays out a little bit more, if there's going to be any kills or if it's just going to be a farm lane. In the meantime, we do have Ezreal pushing middle with Leona right now.
That is trouble. Equalizer actually used in top lane. Gets repelled out of completely. So, you know, that's just one of those Elise tools. Just dodges pretty much all the damage that came out from Rumble right there as he attempted to get some harass on her.
Yeah, it's actually really kind of frustrating to play against because it seems like a get out of jail free card sometimes. And you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, it has huge vision. It actually lets you see over walls in some cases, and you can actually go to other things. Now we see Elise try to go full in on there, but we're going to see the flash from Gurg just get a little bit farther away. J4 on her heels, able there to back her up in case there was a chance for him to go in. But right now, again, just transferring that pressure onto mid lane right now from Bobo. And they had the lane pushed up so far, so why not? They actually took down the turret about 10 minutes into the game. So pretty nice early turret. I mean, it's kind of interesting because there was a point in League of Legends where there was like a mantra of like wait till 15 minutes, take advantage of your lane and keep that turret up. And since then, that's all been out the door. In some cases, turrets are going down at 4 minutes and teams are roaming and, using that advantage to just get that global gold and snowball the game that way.
Yeah, it's very true. 1,000 gold is nothing to like shake a stick at, and that's not even just one person. It's a whole team getting a gain. So I mean, at bottom, a lot of the AD carries will just take the towers, run straight mid, and get another 150 gold for everyone. And then not only that, but it gives you so much more map control because
Cataclysm on the top lane, followed by a stun here. Sorry, as we're going in here, and it looks like the Gurg is gonna fall.
Don't be sorry, man.
Yeah, that's gonna be a rough lane, especially if I mean, Elise versus Rumble is already just a tough lane, but if you're getting a lot of attention from that top laner, then that is the kind of stuff that's gonna happen. Unfortunately, they're not able to capitalize off that and try to make a play on another objective. They're really tied up, just kind of dealing with this mid push right here. They have a pretty big wave, and it's 3v3, so getting held up. Misfortune gonna start to back them up here. Top turret should be able be falling shortly as they're putting a lot of pressure up there. And yeah, just gonna get a few more hits. There is gonna go down, and now
it looks like they're gonna set up for Dragon too.
Yeah, it's a good objective control. I mean, it's unfortunately so many members were actually pulled over here from Amazon to help take this blue buff. Maybe they were afraid the top lane was gonna come down on this one. But either way, they're basically just giving up Dragon here to Qualcomm. So Qualcomm, just great objective control. As we can see right now, they actually have a 4K gold lead at 14 minutes in, which is very, very well done, and we're going to see Ezreal, Bobo, and Crazy Moose come down to the spot lane to help clean this up and get them a little bit far ahead.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with what I was going to say earlier, is once these first turrets go down, a lot of your entrances to your own jungle are no longer safe. You have to keep them warded. You don't have vision of people running downwards or upwards or anything like that, since you can't really push out too far. So it's a great thing that they're going to try to abuse these things too.
Yeah, and as we can see here too, they've also placed a lot of wards already, actually aggressively into Amazon's jungle. So, and all over the map really, just great warding all over for Qualcomm. While it seems like the only real wards are maybe we're coming from Paddo in this mid lane, or the ones that are still up, at least for that sake, kind of covering in this mid lane. Otherwise, Amazon's gonna have to start to just kind of buckle down here because there's not really a lot of objectives still left on the map for them to deal with, and all they can pretty much do is farm and hope to not get collapsed on here in this mid lane. As we see Elise closing in here, is going to have to land that stun. Max range on Deluxe, followed by a Cataclysm and the command Shockwave and Ezreal ult. Wow, that was a lot of hate coming in there towards Patton, and now they're starting to close in here. Some poke going on, and we're definitely going to see them attempt to close out this turret. And we see J4 already going in. Bolt time going to come across the team as they back off here. And we see Orianna throwing a little bit more damage. There's the repel following in onto Pelennor. A few more damage. The equalizer coming across the team as they are underneath turret. And that's finally going to repel the invaders of Qualcomm as Bobo eats a few turret shots there on his way out.
Yeah, 1 for 4 or 1 for 3 is still a wonderful trade. I love the wombo combo. I kind of wish that the command Shockwave wasn't used. I don't think it was actually fully necessary, and it kind of flipped him outside of the wall. But it looks like he was gonna die no matter what.
Yeah, there was a lot of love going for him as soon as that Stanley, and that's just kind of one of those scenarios too where just the threats that you need to pay attention to, and Elise right there landing that max range stun. It is a little bit of a slow projectile, but if you are a seasoned Elise player, which Point Blank I believe actually is a very very strong top laner and has probably played Elise quite a bit, you can start to land those stuns. I believe we did actually see support Elise once, and I forget who was on it. It might have been Patoy possibly. But basically landed every single long range stun, and it was pretty sick.
Yeah, Patoy did do that. I actually watched that game. It was really good. They played a really aggressive team in general, and it was really fun to watch, especially since a lot of the North American teams have been having a hard time adjusting to the super aggressiveness that is now. They're just now starting to kind of catch up with it.
It's kind of just to watch the NA scene too, especially just because they're very much, if you see one thing come out for one of them, it usually comes from everybody else in most cases. Especially, with the early turrets, the 3-man dives, and that whole week, like every single game was almost like a carbon copy of the same thing early. And it's kind of interesting, I find it, maybe they don't have enough practice partners, and I know it's always been up to them to have enough quality practice partners to be able to use to possibly up their game in scrims, but if they're kind of in their own little ecosystem, which is North America, then you just kind of see the same stuff come out over and over again, and that's the way it's going. But the way this game is going, at least so far, some turret trouble for Amazon. They haven't really been able to push out there. This is kind of where I feel like Amazon gets into a little bit of trouble. Now they do have this Lux, like I talked about earlier, that can kind of stave off a little bit of 5-man pushes, provided she doesn't get caught out in the early stages. They've been able to keep up that middle turret, so they do have a little bit of map control. If that was able to fall, then it would be really dicey for them, because then their bust would be really suspect at this point. We do see Qualcomm keeping up that warding across the map as Amazon's responding a little bit more as well. But really just looks like the main pressure is still in this mid lane, this bot lane right now, is Cho'Gath rotating down there to possibly get off a gank if they're backing up right away.
Yeah. It was a nice try to come down and a nice thought, but just because of the way everyone else on the other team is positioned, I think it wouldn't have gone well even if they were to kind of get a catch, since Ezreal's so slippery with the Z.
Yeah, that arcane shift makes people cry. And right now also, one thing to look for as well is that they picked up J4, and I can't remember exactly how the picks went, and when the J4 pick did come in, but when you do look at a team like this, J4 is perfectly set up for a team like this that doesn't have a lot of ways to naturally get out of his Cataclysm. Pretty much no one actually has a way to to hop over it without having to use Flash, and that's just kind of like the perfect comp to actually run against if I do have a J4 like this. So I'm sure that Hataki is actually pretty happy here with his J4 pick, and their gauge is going to be very very strong because of that.
Yeah, I believe it was like the second pick, actually from the list. So, ooh, a nice laser and an equalizer.
Yeah, we'll see if they're able to pull this off. And
ooh,
that's a brilliant shockwave.
Yeah.
That's the one we were looking for. And now
baby.
it's only Valsy, and he's going to get picked off even with the Flash Ignite. Still going to chase him to his grave. A full ace right there without actually dropping a single member, even though J4 was pretty low after man-moding that one. And they might be able to pick up another turret here depending on this creep wave and how much they're able to tank.
I think they're going to have to rotate tanking. Oh, well, I guess the creep wave's here. I believe...
Oh, hey, but it was the execution, though, so...
Sure.
Leona's gonna go to her people in the sky. But I mean, that's another thing to look at too, is Elisa's pushing power with her spiderlings. She gets that attack speed boost, and it's her and her spiderlings, and just so much damage to turrets really really quickly. And it kind of it's another thing where she has this awesome kit, and they've nerfed her a little bit where her poke isn't as good, but as you can see, it's still really good in this game, especially against melee type champions. And she has great escape with repel, and then of course she has great pushing power with her spiderlings. So all in all, she kind of reminds me of the new Scary Nidalee, although it looks like...
Did the client crash? Is something going on here?
It looks like the game froze on my end.
Oh, it did on my end too, so it looks like it's not just you. I was gonna say they're preparing for Dragon, but then I realized no one on the map is moving.
And I know we still have, do have internet on our end because the camera's still panning, and I actually can see that on Twitch we're still streaming. So
This is neat.
So maybe Riot servers are not. This did happen.
Oh.
Ironically, this did actually happen in the previous Amazon game in the first round. Although it was so early that there was no real decided winner. I don't know what they'll go with at this point, since we do see a 9K lead. Not necessarily that means that you're going to completely win a game, but definitely since they're already knocking at the door of Amazon, I don't know if they'll give them the first game win or what will actually happen here.
I think it was actually just us. I got a message saying connection to spectator, etc., and it made me get out, and I'm trying to reconnect now. We'll see if it lets me in again, or if it's just going to sit here at this black screen. I'm not sure. But since it sounds like you've dealt with this before, we might just be out of luck.
Yeah, I think what I've experienced before is typically the game is actually stopped. I should have actually probably messaged there while I was out of game. I guess if someone that is in the game is actually in our chat, you can actually respond to me really quickly and let me know what's going on with the game. Hopefully the game's still going, because I don't like to see games just kind of have to be reset.
Yeah.
Especially, when one team actually does have a good game going for themselves. It's a little bit of a heartbreaker, even when it is a close game and you've been playing it out for like 35 minutes, and then you get to that, that final moment that it's supposed to be, and it's like, nope, we're not going to be able to do it. And it looks like...
Yeah, it looks like I'm not reconnecting, so I'm just going to cancel and then black screen for days. Okay, there we go. Kind of killed my whole League of Legends client. Oh well.
Yeah, it looks like I'm kind of having a similar issue over here myself, so...
Oh,
sorry, guys, if they are indeed playing. I'm sorry.
Well then, I actually have to get rid of my whole client because it says I'm in-game but doesn't give me the option to reconnect.
Yeah, I'm going to have to hop over here myself and reset it. So hopefully the game is still going. We'll be able to hop in and bring you the action. Sorry again, guys. Technical difficulties sometimes does happen. But with any luck, we should be good. Or at least the game might be restarted. But yeah, so tough start, at least for Amazon. And, beyond Lux's kind of game, they were just kind of losing out their lanes. But Qualcomm executing really, really well throughout the game. They definitely had a team strategy, a lot of team synergy. I would say better team synergy than we had last night. With
man, man, don't even start, man. I don't even know if it was synergy or just sobriety. I don't know where you're going with this, friend.
You hear the Zack music in the background. The Quinn music kept reminding me of like Age of Empires every time I heard it.
Maybe that's why I tried to play Age of Empires for a little bit. And
probably.
Worth it, and then I just quit.
It reminded me of like Age of Empires and/or Civ, and I was just like, yes. It was a little weird. Sorry, people.
I'm sorry.
Doors are being closed for some reason.
Okay, it won't let me log on. What is this nonsense?
Yeah, it looks like I'm actually having trouble. We're actually having trouble logging on to PvP.net. Are you able to log on? That would be unfortunate.
Still logged on, so it didn't kick them off, but...
Well, I don't like you. Alright, and I'm logging in right now, so clearly...
I'm attempting to log in.
You fixed the internet. Well, it looks like they're still playing, because I'm able to still reconnect.
Oh, reconnect. Let's try it.
Oh, it looks like it's working. So it looks like their game's going. It looks like we were just getting trolled there a little bit. And we'll see if this game is still going. We'll bring it to you guys. Sorry again for the technical difficulties. It does happen sometimes here. League of Legends client isn't always the most foolproof thing in the world, unfortunately.
Ugh.
Adobe Air OP.
True that. I wish they would just kind of like start something on the side for their own client. It would be nice, but they've invested so much time and energy into Adobe Air. I don't think that's going to happen.
I invited people to join the damn game.
Hey, whoa, PC, calm down. That's PC here in the back. I actually did have a LAN party going on here. And now we can hop back into this game. Unfortunately, it looks like they might have been stalled a little bit too because I don't think the game timer's moved quite a bit. At least as I've seen so far. And the kills didn't jump up a lot, but after a big, huge scuffle right there, we actually see that Qualcomm is now finally taking out this base turret. It looks like they're heading into a stage where they're going to try to wrap up at least game 1 so far.
Blue team's inhibitor has been destroyed.
And
Oh, I just kind of loaded and everything exploded at once.
everything, every death that happened during the game just flashed right in front of your eyes. So
that hurt my ears. I'm not gonna lie.
So sorry again, guys, about the difficulties, but again, Qualcomm still on top here, pull out the lead. It looks like they're probably going to be able to take game 1. So this is one of those scenarios where team morale does become a factor. I know a lot of times when you do drop that first game, you can get really down on yourselves, but Amazon, they just kind of need to stick it out. They did have that last playoff game last time, like I talked about, where they lost the first game. It was heartbreaking, and they came back and won the next one in sub 20 minutes. So anything is possible. They can find something to work. Maybe they'll come out with a little bit better ban strategies. Kind of talked about a little bit before, just kind of counterpicking themselves. I feel like if you are going to go Rumble, just in general, if Elise isn't a ban, which typically you'll see in competitive play, if Rumble comes out, usually Elise is a ban as well.
Yeah.
That's something you see, or you will see a move to a 2v1, which sometimes the Elise has.
Bad matchup, yeah.
And there
That
was,
ending. Too bad they can't follow up on it.
yep. Although
Oh,
loading up the dissonance,
Uh-oh.
taking lives, getting in there.
Oh,
Ethan-
and the Tarek got stunned. Jarvan going man mode. Oh. Let's see what's gonna go from there. Shockwave on the Rumble only. Well,
Yep.
that was disruptive.
That's the way of putting it mildly right now. As really just on the back foot here. Bull time coming off. Gonna get eaten alive here by a giant spider. Barrier lets her live for a couple extra seconds. But beyond that, now losing the Nexus turrets. And that is going to be game 1 for Amazon and Qualcomm. Qualcomm taking game 1, and we'll be moving on to game 2. And we'll see if Amazon can fire back. Again, they do have it in them to pull off some big wins. But this one looks like it's going to be a tough one. So we'll be bringing you game 2 shortly.
GG, well played.